Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julianne and this is my mission to read every single one of the books that I have left to read on my physical shelves, aka TBR Zero. If you would like to know a bit more about the background to the project and the rules, then I have videos all about these on my channel, including a very recent rule change update video in which I sort of recap how the project has been going up to almost this point. So if you are new here, I recommend you check that out and then come back to watch this update, or maybe the one before that if you like. For returning viewers and those who have no interest in going back and doing any homework before carrying on with this video, fair enough. It is now month 35 of the project. It's May 6th, so I'm not very far into it, but I have already finished 2 books and DNF'd 3. Wow, I know. I feel like I'm on a roll and just can't question anything too much or the magic will be broken. But the first book that I finished reading was The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is the first book in sort of continuation duology from the Folk of the Air series. I guess it's like the 4th Folk of the Air book, 5th Folk of the Air book, if you count how the King of Elfheim learned to hate stories. I started this buddy reading it with Binks from Binks Binks. It was very fun to know I was buddy reading it. I have finished it, Binks is still reading it, but I'm going to pause and wait for her to catch up before I read the sequel, The Prisoner's Throne. But I really enjoyed this. It was fantastic to be back in Holly Black's fairy world again. I just love the way that she writes. It's fast paced, it gets you thinking, trying to guess what's going to happen, and I did like anticipate some of the plot twists in this one, but I'm sure the next one will surprise me because I have genuinely no idea what's going to happen and how it's all going to resolve. I mean, one thing was hinted at during this book, but other than that, how it's all going to work out, I have no idea. So I'm really excited to read that one. But yeah, finished this one. And then 2 days ago on Monday, it's Wednesday now, I finished reading Hot Chocolate on Thursday. Actually, technically, I read the whole book in one day. So I was going to a friend's house for her Latvian re-independence party. So it's themed around when Latvia regained independence with the fall of the Soviet Union. And so unfortunately the transport was a mess. So the usual trains that I usually get into London were not running. So I had to go on this very circular route, getting multiple buses and trains, and yeah. So it took about an hour and 3/4 / 2 hours to get there, but I came prepared. I brought this book, and this book I borrowed from the library recently, but because it's like a brand new publication, other people wanted it. So I think I got lucky that I was the first person to put a hold on it in the area, in this borough, but then somebody else put a hold on it right after me. So yeah, I could not hold on to it any longer than that initial 3-week period, so I was like desperate to get this read so that I can return that. And after I finish filming this video, I'm going to go and return it along with some other library books that I have finished reading over the last month or so. 2 months, I think, because yeah, I only read 1 library book last month. So yeah, some I've been hanging on to for a while and just letting them auto renew because no one else wants them, and it's just more convenient for me to take a whole bunch back in one go. But anyway, I really wanted to read this because this is the same author who wrote What You Were Looking For Is in the Library, which I really enjoyed, and this didn't disappoint. So it's essentially a series of interconnected short stories in which the kind of narrator of each has a revelation about their life. They have a realization, just like a small thing which makes a big difference to how their life is going to go so far. And it's full of lovely details that really like bring the character to life in each one, even though they are very short. What I really enjoyed about this one was that with What You Were Looking For Is in the Library, the characters didn't really overlap with each other. They all have the library and the mysterious magical librarian in common, but in this one it's sort of more of like a baton passing thing. So it's like either the secondary character in each story or even just like someone on the sidelines of it is then the person in the next story. So I really enjoyed that. It's not like there's a plot that runs through the whole book. It's more like each character has their moment and then the torch is passed on to the next character to narrate a bit of their own lives. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to the sequel coming out. There's a little bit of it at the back of this book. I believe these were published like a decade ago in Japan, so they are kind of already ready to go. Yeah, it says Matcha on Monday is the companion read, which is coming soon in translation. And there is also another book, I believe, by this author out at the moment as well. I think that what happened was when what you were looking for is in the library really took off, then they went back and started to translate more of this author's backlist. But I believe they're all translated by the same person. So obviously that will take a while for both of them to come out. But I will be reading because I really like them. There we go. So that's all the books that I have finished reading so far this month. On my currently reading pile, I still have Happy City, and I still have Starter for 10, which is my sort of meal book. It's the book I read when I'm eating, and I might make a mess because it's a really like decrepit old paperback. So if I splash sauce on it, it doesn't matter. Happy City is my sort of non-fiction book that I've got on the go and dip in and out of, although I haven't dipped out in it very much in the last few weeks. And then I have another 2 paperbacks. The first is Someone Like You by Sarah Dessen. Now this is what I got to after doing 3 DNFs. So after I finished, what was it, House of Windows last month, that was my sort of paperback YA kind of easy dip in and out book. I then went to my pile of YA books. I have a literal pile, it's 2 piles of YA books that I fished out from my shelves. All of them are contemporary, so they're either thrillers or they are just sort of normal life contemporaries, I guess. I sort of put those both together because the thrillers tend to be contemporary thrillers. I think some of them have might have like horror aspects to them, but I'm not sure. It's very, very difficult to tell when a lot of them are proof copies, and so there's not really any like identifying genre giveaways on them. But yeah, anyway, I kind of put those together, and after finishing House of Windows, which I had taken from that pile, I went to have a look to find another one to read. I picked one up, I read a little bit into it, and I just wasn't really loving the style. And then I tried another one, I thought, I feel like this has not aged well, and so I don't really want to read it. And then there was a third one, which I kind of picked up, flicked through, and just decided it wasn't for me. I think that with young adult literature, I have read so much of it, and I've read so much really, really brilliant stuff in my life, both from when I was an actual teenager and then in my early days of making book content. Ugh, I hate the word content, but you know what I mean. When I started out, I was a book blogger, and I was mostly reading contemporary YA. That was my genre, that is my home genre, that is my favourite genre. It's the one I always go back to. And I think why I love Christmas books is because there's quite a lot of kind of crossover. There were quite a lot of contemporary YA Christmas books, and then I started reading adult ones and kind of went from there. Obviously there's also like quite a lot of crossover with YA romance and adult romance. Like it's a natural sort of progression as a reader to go from one to the other. But anyway, that used to be my genre of choice. It is still one of my top genres. I haven't stopped reading it, but I am so fussy now. I was always quite fussy because I have a really, really vivid memory of what it felt like to be a teenager. And so if I read something and that teenage me, who I swear still lives inside my head and is just like someone I can call on at any moment to evaluate a book or any kind of media featuring teenagers, if that version of me doesn't think it's good, then I'm not going to think it's good, and I'm not going to want to read it. So yeah, if it doesn't resonate with her, it doesn't resonate with me, and therefore I do not want to carry on with it. There's also the fact that I've read so much really, really brilliant stuff by really, really, really good authors, that when I read one and it just doesn't reach those standards, or it's going in a direction that I don't find interesting. Like I know what my preferences are, you know, and sometimes it's not that the book isn't well written, it's just that I know what I like in contemporary YA as a genre, and this is not going to deliver that, and so I'm not interested in reading it. So yeah, I feel that my DNF muscle is more advanced with that than it is in any other genre or age category. So yeah, quite nice to get 3 books off of my TBR in quick succession, and And also a little bit disappointing as well, because obviously those books have been hanging around on my shelf for so long, and I was really hoping that I would enjoy them, but no, not for me. There was one where I was a little bit ambiguous about it, and I just wasn't feeling it, and I wanted to read something else. And so, you know, if in the future I hear good things about it again, and I feel like I might want to give it another go, I can get hold of a copy then. I don't need to hold it on my shelves until such a possible future date happens. The last book that I am currently reading is Hidden Talents by Erica James. I started this a couple of months ago, and then last month I realised that I had a vague memory of who all the people were, but I couldn't get the names, you know, to the front of my head. So I decided to reread those first few chapters and then carry on from there. I am really enjoying it. It's about a writers group, so the kind of book opens with this character Dolce, who has just decided to launch this writing group, and kind of goes into her personal history, and then it sort of goes through the other characters who have been considering becoming part of this group, and I think there's like 5 or 6 of them, and there's also like an annoying guy who is so relatable. If you've ever been in a writers group, this annoying guy is just so true to life. It's spot on, I tell you. But yeah, it's just sort of like a contemporary fiction book and follows all these different people. As I say, I'm on chapter 16, but that's only this far into the book, right? Like it's not very long at all. I've still got all of this. But I am enjoying it. I think it's really well written, and I've never read an Erica James book before, but she's just one of those authors that you sort of see around. I've never heard anybody talking about her books before either, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, I am intrigued to see how this story plays out and how all the characters' lives become ever more entangled. So there we go, that is my first update for May. I hope to be updating you again soon. Hello, welcome to the very hot world that is the 26th of May here in London. It is 35 degrees today, so I had to clear off some space. Yeah, so I could sit on top of my walking pad in front of the bookshelf, because this is the coolest spot upstairs in my house. And my partner's working downstairs, so I can't disturb him and kick him out of the living room. But anyway, update. I have not updated in ages because it's been a very, very slow reading month, or at least that's how it's felt to me. I've been doing other things. I've been doing a lot of painting, walking, wedding admin. I am getting legally married in just a few days. It is now Tuesday. I'm getting legally married on Saturday, and then 2 weeks after that I'm having my big wedding with my kind of custom celebrant ceremony, and the meal and the speeches and the party and all of that. If you are not from England, you might not know, but legally here only local council employees and religious ministers can do legal weddings. So if you want something kind of off script, if you want to do something fun and unique and customized to just you, then you have to do your wedding in 2 halves. It is unfortunate, and it's hopefully going to change in the next year or so, but here I am getting married this year, and that's the situation. Anyway, all this planning around that has somewhat sapped my ability to read a lot. Nonetheless, I have finished a few things. So the first thing I finished was The Prisoner's Throne. Beautiful edition. Just love the art inside. I really enjoyed this duology. It was so great to be back in Holly Black's fairy world, and if you are a fan of the rest of the Folk of the Air series, I think like on Goodreads this is listed as a continuation but also as its own duology, then you'll definitely enjoy this one because it features a fair bit of Jude and Carden. I won't say anything more about it though because I will spoil you. Then I finished reading Someone Like You by Sarah Dessen. What's really interesting about this one is it's mostly about friendship rather than being like a romance. It's about a girl called Hallie whose best friend Scarlett has had this new boyfriend all summer, and then he gets killed in a motorcycle accident, and then she discovers that she's pregnant, and sort of how this impacts her relationship with Hallie, but also how Hallie struggles to process this and has this relationship with this boy that her mother doesn't approve of, and her mother sort of makes some assumptions about how she's feeling about it all. And it's an interesting one because it's about friendship and it's about relationships between mothers and daughters, and so yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed Last Chance and The Truth About Forever, which are my two favourite Sarah Dessen so far. I'm also currently reading Just Listen. I decided after I finished this I'd pick up the other Sarah Dessen that was sitting on my TBR, and I am enjoying that one even more, I think. So yeah, I am looking forward to finishing that, but yeah, this was good too. Then I was going through one of my bookshelves trying to make some space to put some books on it, and I saw this and I thought, you know what, I kind of feel like I'm in the mood for this. Even though I couldn't remember very much about it when I first picked it up. Once I read the blurb, I was like, yes. So it's about this spinster called Tranby Quirke in 1909. She's 34. And she is a very dramatic lesbian. Like, this woman is dramatic. So basically, when she was a kid, she kissed a girl one time, and then that girl drowned in a river. And she has, like, decided because of this that her love is doomed, that she is a curse, and that she can never be in love again, blah, 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 blah. It starts off being quite funny because of this, because you're like, this is over the top, this is dramatic. There's a scene where, after spending some time with the woman she's fallen in love with, that's the main point of this book, she's like alone in her flat with her two cats called Happiness and Bliss, and the rain is pouring down, and this like totally reflects on her feelings. So at the start it kind of comes off feeling like funny and light, and the fact that she's also like secretly a suffragette and works at this like college institution teaching girls to be good housewives, like the whole thing is kind of comical. But then once her like love affair starts, it becomes quite tragic, and the end is ambiguous. It's a case of, is this tragic? Do we believe this to be what has actually happened, or is this just the main character doing some creative writing? It's unclear, but in any case, it's kind of dark. And so yeah, I found the vibe of this very strange, comical, and then also tragic. And yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm going to be thinking about this one for a while, I feel. If you have read it, please let me know, because I would love to discuss how you feel about the whole story, the ending, etc, etc. I am hoping to read Hidden Talents next. I get the feeling that's going to be the next one that I really dive into and try and finish. I'm currently on page 94. I have enjoyed this every time I've picked it up, but just for some reason I have not ended up getting into it very much. I do have lots of painting planned for this week though, so I don't know how much spare time I will have to read, but if not this week, next week. Although next week will be June, so we'll just have to see how things go in future updates. And with that, thanks past me. Today I'm in this slightly awkward angle. I am in front of my bookshelf, which is a great improvement on the previous situation for months and months. However, because of where the window is, you can see what's happening. If I am facing the window directly in front of the bookcases, it just doesn't work because of the light coming in. It has been gloomy and rainy for most of the day though, so the fact that there's a little bit of sun now is something for which I am actually quite grateful. So anyway, this is my final update for May 2026. I read 2 more books, which I am going to tell you about now. So the first one was actually a listen. It was The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran, which was a recommendation from somebody in my book club. In fact, a sort of impromptu in-between book club was organised that I couldn't go to, but I decided to listen to it anyway because they made it sound really, really good. So The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran tells the story of a family who leave Iran due to their political actions, meaning that they have to flee. It's told through a different point of view every 10 years. So it starts with one character, then his wife, then their daughter, then their son, and all of these segments are 10 years apart. It's an absolutely gorgeous way to tell the story. I thought it was just brilliant getting these sort of snapshots of their life at different times, and also the slightly different points of view of the characters was really interesting as well. Having sort of the first character in all his kind of young revolutionary zeal, then his wife when they've moved to West Germany and they're kind of adjusting to the reality of what it means to be in exile, and then their daughter who has grown up there and has complicated feelings about everything that has happened to them and her life, and then finally their son, who is at the start of his section mostly absorbed in the goings-on of his friends and their love lives, but as the story goes on, kind of gets more in touch with that kind of political spirit that he has inherited from his parents. Such a good book, would definitely recommend, and a really quick listen as well. It's only a few hours. Then finally I finished my last TBR book of the month, Just Listen by Sarah Dessen. I think I mentioned before that this was already shaping up to be a great read, and I wasn't wrong. I think this is actually now my new favourite Sarah Dessen book. So what I really liked about this one is that it's about the fallout of a event, about the ending of a friendship, but also the character has a rich kind of family life, there's a romance going on, she's kind of having to face up to who she is and speak up for herself and be braver. It's quite a lot darker than the other Sarah Dessens that I've read, so I'll warn you, it does feature sexual assault and a eating disorder, but I thought that she handled it really well, that the kind of lighter elements of the story were well balanced out and kind of fed into the darker elements, so it felt natural, it felt realistic, it felt like a teenager's life that was very full, that had a lot going on. I think sometimes where young adult contemporary books can go wrong is where they overly focus on one thing and you kind of lose sight of the fact that the character has the rest of her life going on. It makes the character seem a bit kind of one-dimensional, and you know, most teenagers do have a lot going on. In fact, in some ways they have more going on than some adults, because they have kind of the question of who they're going to be, who they want to be, kind of hanging over them and everything they do. On top of school, if they have a job, any kind of volunteering, extracurricular activities they might do, or any kind of friendship drama that they are undergoing, as well as romance, any creative ambitions, all of that. So yeah, you know, having that kind of well-roundingness is what I look for in a young adult book, and actually in a lot of adult books as well. When I read Christmas books, for instance, I want a character kind of ticks all of those boxes. I want the story, the background to tick all of those boxes. Otherwise it kind of feels flat to me, and like the character just isn't fully developed, isn't real, like there hasn't been enough kind of world building around that character for me to believe that they are a person, and also to find them interesting, you know. Very few people's lives are going perfectly well except for in one specific area, you know, so well that they don't have to think about anything other than that one specific thing. So in short, loved this, thought it was brilliant, new favourite Sarah Dessen unlocked, and the window thing is happening again. What is going on? Oh well, only a couple more minutes to enjoy it for, because it is time for, drumroll please, the tally. So this month I started off with 757 books on my TBR. I read 1 library print book and 1 library audiobook, so obviously those don't count. I read 5 books on my TBR, I DNF'd 3, and I acquired 2 new books. That brings me down to 751. I was really hoping to get under 750, but that's going to have to wait until June, I think. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. Please let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and you enjoyed them. If you have read Sarah Dessen books, which are your favourites? If you've read Holly Black books, which are your favourites? I would love to know. You'll see me again soon. Bye!